Hello and welcome to another episode of
Absolute Game Off.
Nerd! How's it going, everybody? Again, today we actually have a special episode. We're filming with a guest in England, so we're recording at an odd hour, and JP couldn't make it. But for our 50th episode, we have Ian of the MCC Podcast with us today. Ian, say hi. How you doing?
Hi, how you doing?
Right out.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So for those that don't know, Ian runs the MCC Podcast, which if you're into Marvel cards is one of the biggest, it's probably the biggest podcast I know. So check him out. I'll put the links and all that stuff in the description. But Ian, we always start these out. You have a podcast, therefore it was started because you loved something in the hobby, Marvel cards, Marvel comics. Talk to us about your origin story.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I am, origin stories. Funnily enough, that was the name of episode 1.
Yes, that JP and I origin story.
Yeah. Yep. And if you're kind of into the comics and card space, then you kind of origin stories is a thing. So let me rewind. I started by kind of, I won't say by accident, out of frustration. I started not one but 2 Facebook groups in 2018. I want to say, 2018, and they got pretty big pretty quickly, and then after about 6 months or so, Norin, or Fausto, I think he's going by most of the time now, joined the group, who's a surfer collector like you, I believe.
Yeah, we've had him on the show.
He joined the group, and then he and I got on, hit it off. So I asked him to be like the second ever kind of admin, if you like. So he came on as admin, and then we were talking in early 2019. I was like, I've always wanted to start a podcast. I always wanted to, kind of inspired by the Kevin Smith podcast empire of the, kind of around late noughties, early 2010s, when Kevin Smith started doing his Smodcast and, started doing like 12 different podcasts all at once. And I wanted to start one about 2015. I never did. And then started the podcast with Norin in 2019. And it's been going just over 4 years. But you probably want to know how I got to that point, don't you? If you want to be the real OG.
Where the real, like when you started even into the hobby, even before you even thought about a podcast.
Well, I was born at a very early age in Devon, in England, and it was the dark ages. The internet didn't exist. I am the same age as this episode will be numbered.
Oh, all right. I mean, the internet wasn't existing when I was born as well.
The internet didn't exist, nor did a lot of other things. Yeah. I think in the UK, I think we had 2 television channels, and that was it. And it was, I grew up in a rural area, so there was nothing around apart from Star Trek started on BBC 2. And it was on Tuesdays at 6:00, and I was probably too young to watch it, because to this day, during the end credits of Star Trek, you had that mask, from the alien, and to this day that gives me the heebie-jeebies. And I always used to get through an episode of Star Trek, and then during the end credits, I'd have to. I knew when it was coming, so I'd close my eyes for that bit, and I was like 7 or 8, and then. Fast forward a couple of years, and a couple of things happened. The first thing that happened was I've got props. Do you want some props?
Love props.
The first thing that happened in 1982 was Eagle, which is a UK title. It was resurrected, actually. This used to be a big deal in the 50s and 60s, like long before I was around. And then they relaunched it in 1982 as a weekly. And it's basically got Dan Dare, who's like a 50s like space superhero, and then you've got the Mekon, who's that freaky looking guy there with the big head sitting on his little chair.
It kind of looks like an alien Silver Surfer there.
It's kind of more of a chair kind of thing. Anyway, he's the head of an evil empire, and he's fighting against Dan Dare. So that was the launch one. And then you had other ones that were like photo strips. I don't know if you can see that there.
Yeah,
they were literally like photo strips. It was called Doomlord. And you ask anyone my age about Doomlord in the UK, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I remember that." And it had a free thing on the front. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where my fingers are. It had like a free space spinner on the front here as well.
Yeah.
Which is like a plastic. It's basically a frisbee. And yeah, and weirdly, a lot of these early ones, you've got people in these who went on to quite big things. I think Alan Moore had some stuff in it.
Oh, wow.
Right, people like that, so it's pretty big stuff. So that came out, and my mum started buying me that. I got into Star Wars a little bit. I say a little bit in quite a big way. So I'd seen some Star Trek the Motion Picture cards, managed to make it over into the local newsagent, and I had maybe about 20 of those from that top set from 1979 or somewhere around there. So they made it over. I had some of those. And then there were some Star Wars cards, the tops, the original series, they made it over. And then I got really big into the Star Wars toys. And so Star Wars was big for me. And then my first experience of Marvel was probably this. Spider-Man and Zoids. Okay. So Zoids are the toys.
Okay.
They're like dinosaur robot things.
And that Spider-Man, that's from Marvel Team Up 141.
Yeah. So basically, what they did with this is it was a UK publication, and they had half of it was Zoids and half of it was Spidey, and it was reprinting stuff from kind of like 200s of Amazing Spider-Man. That sort of, I think the Hobgoblin comes in around issue 10 of this, stuff like that. And it was great, and it was this lasted about 50 issues. It was weekly to start with, and then it went every 2 weeks. And it finally kind of died out. Zoids is worth checking out. They've never reprinted it, but I think you can kind of get like online. You can find it. It's some of Grant Morrison's first work.
Huh. All right.
It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Some of the Zoid stuff. It's pretty dark as well. So that introduced me to Spidey, and then we're off to the races. So I've always been a Spidey guy. In fact, all these boxes behind me are mostly Spider-Man comics.
Right on.
So and then but cards, apart from like a little bit of that top set from Star Trek and a little bit of the Star Wars set, that was it. Garbage Pail Kids. That was the only other thing kind of that really happened. So the Marvel cards that most of the people that I've spoken to on the podcast have all got stories like growing up in the 80s and 90s, we could get Marvel cards, we can get them in the mall, we can get them here, we can get there. We had none of that over here. None of that made it over here to be distributed. So fast forward to 92, and I was a student at this point, and a comic shop opened in the part of Devon that I lived in, and that was unheard of. And I remember distinctly seeing both Masterpieces 92 and Marvel Universe set free from 1992, which is 1992 is just like the OG year for me. But I couldn't afford them. I could see other people like opening the packs because he could get them in because he was plugged into the like network, the comic book distribution network, and he was a specialist thing. But they didn't go into like general superstores and supermarkets and news agents and things like that. They didn't make it over here in that distribution. It was only specialist stores that carried them. So I remember seeing them, and I remember really wanting them, but I didn't have any, and I couldn't own any. Although some of my comics had the little like the preview things like were stapled in that were in those. And I guess I didn't really come back to Marvel cards until 2007 with Marvel Masterpieces. And by that time, I was living in London. I had a job, I had disposable income, and I worked 50 yards away from Forbidden Planet. That big. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's basically a comic pop culture store.
Okay.
And in central London, there's one in New York, and they're still going after about 50 years. And in Forbidden Planet, I used to, because it was so close, I used to be able to go up there on my lunch break and just like look at stuff like most days. And I remember they got Marvel Masterpieces 2007, which was the first Upper Deck Masterpieces set. I remember thinking, oh, I quite like the look of those. So I bought some packs, went back to work, opened them because I couldn't wait to get home.
Real quick, in that gap that you stopped and then the 2007, did you at all at least like remain like for example, like I was into the comics in the 90s, and then I didn't really get back into it until 2 years ago now, we'll say. But like when stuff came out, like the original X-Men movies, I was like, oh, I remember this stuff. I love this stuff. So I still watch it. Were you like that?
Oh yeah. I know. I'm still very much into all the X-Men movies.
The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I literally wept in the cinema when it finished because I was like, yes, they've done it.
I still think to this day, like when we talk about like best MCU movies, I think people forget Spider-Man 2 and X-Men 2. I think are still some of the best
they're up there.
Marvel movies there is.
Well, they're the Empire Strikes Back of their trilogies.
Exactly.
They're the Godfather Part 2 of those trilogies.
Yeah.
Less said about Spider-Man 3, the better. Although I should probably give it another go. It's been 20 years, I think.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a long time.
Statute of limitations on that. By the way, here's a question for you. Whatever happened to Topher Grace?
That 70s show. It was always an oddball casting, in my opinion, because he played kind of like an awkward kid, and just like very scrawny kind of awkward kid. So when they cast him for Spider-Man 3, I remember being like, that does not fit my vision of Eddie Brock. I mean, you think of Venom, right? You think like just huge, just like jacked kind of guy. And so I always thought it was an odd but yeah, I mean, after that 70s show, he got that. He was in a couple other things, but I mean, yeah, I guess faded out.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I only know him from movies because I didn't watch that 70s show.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure he's made plenty and enough money on just that 70s show. That show went for a long time, syndication. Like, yeah, I mean, because even from that show, there was a huge cast, and like that Wilder Valderrama, he had some spikes, but then he kind of faded off. But then like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis would be the two biggest from.
Oh, okay, show. Yeah. I know about them. So, but yeah, no, and to my money, for my money to this day, my favorite superhero movie, let me rephrase it. My favorite comic book movie is still Unbreakable.
Oh yeah, it is awesome.
Awesome
movie.
I just love that film. But no, I was still buying Spidey until the clone storyline. I bailed after that. All that, where you had a crossover and it was like, you had to buy all the issues and stuff like that. So I probably bailed on Spidey about 99, 2000, just before JMS started his run. So I only kind of discovered that a few years later, and then I picked up again. So I had about 4 or 5 year gap. So I always had Spidey going on. And then it basically my collecting basically ties in with how gainfully employed I was and how much money I had to spend. So when I was working back in the West End from 2005, West End of London, I was able to pick up, at that point, there were quite a lot of comic shops in the middle of London. They've all gone now because it's all been redeveloped and, the rents have gone through the roof and stuff like that. So, cards. So, cards started for me in 2007 with that. So that for a lot of people, you say, okay, what's your OG set? And a lot of them will be like Marvel Universe 1990 or Marvel Masterpieces 94 or something like that. For me, it's Masterpieces 2007. That's the one that.
Who is he? I don't really, to be perfectly honest, I don't really know that set too well. Who's the artist on that set?
Who isn't the artist on that set? And that's the thing. So it's the only one that isn't. Now, I've got to be careful here. A lot of people think that it isn't original art, apart from maybe 2 or 3 pieces, but it isn't comic book art either. So Upper Deck had their Versus system cards already going.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah,
used
yeah,
the artwork that had been done for that. So it is artwork that was done for cards. And then they've just used it again for Marvel Masterpieces. And it is, top end. There's a couple of Bill Sienkiewicz pieces in there. Joe Jusko came back and did the pack art and his art's on one of the cards. You've got Arthur. Is it Suidam? Is that how you pronounce it? The guy who did Marvel Zombies.
I don't really know Marvel Zombies.
Yeah. Anyway, Phil Noto's in it. Alex Maleev is in it. There's some pretty big cats.
The one thing I will always say about that set, I think the Black Spider-Man card in that set is the best Black Spidey suit card. I love that card.
Yeah. No, there's some amazing sets in there. Of course, Adam Hughes did the Black Cat in that set, and she's my girl. And
I wanted to ask how did that? I mean, you're obviously founder in Spider-Man, but where did that love born from?
It's this because this was coming out all through. This was probably about 3 or 4 years over period, and it was reprinting all of that stuff from the mid to late 80s Amazing Spider-Man with a little bit of Spectacular Spider-Man thrown in. So Black Cat was kind of pretty much regular cast at that point. She would pop in and out, and he was kind of with MJ, but he was kind of a little bit cheating on her with Felicia. And I was kind of at that age where it kind of like, I was like, oh, hello. And so, and it started from there really, but I didn't really collect her until 2008 when I discovered sketch cards, again off the back of Marvel Masterpieces 2008 sets. And then I discovered sketch cards were a thing. And then I was like, oh, so hang on, I can buy an original sketch card that's all this is the only one that exists, and people have drawn the character I'm really into. I'll have some of that, thank you very much. So that's kind of what I started diving in properly through sketch cards of Black Cat, and she's and I don't collect sketches of any other character. I've even got my own T-shirt. Look at this. See, that's Tony Perner artwork. That is
right on. Yeah,
Tony
right on.
Perner.
Nice.
So and it's all got a bit crazy. So I'm kind of one of those crazy character collectors you hear about. Although I don't go as far as collecting a character if their text is on the card. She has to.
I was gonna ask, like, what is the level of? Because do you do like character appearances on other characters' cards?
Any card she appears on.
Okay, you did.
Whether she's on her own or whether she's.
Okay.
Now, interestingly, sketch cards, she has to be on her own.
Yes.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah, because you can't even really research that. Like so. No. So is your collection fairly comprehensive? Are you like? Is it like through 97 to? Nice.
Yeah. No, it's earlier than that. For Black Cat, so basically I've got a spreadsheet. I've got a mofo spreadsheet. It's like that. The list is life. It's taken years to nail down, because the thing is, and character collectors will know this, if you use the various resources that are out there, and they've been documented and I've talked about them on my podcast, but if you use them and you do searches, you search for character name, it only takes you so far.
Yeah,
because the card might be called something else, especially if it's in a TCG. So you've got the TCG stuff, you've got the trading card sets, then you've got the stickers. If you're really crazy, you'll go into stamps and pogs as well. So it gets pretty big pretty quickly.
On that spectrum, are you going all the way to pogs?
I've got one. I've got one graded one that I didn't intend to get, but my good friend Amanda graded gamer.
Graded gamer, yeah.
Yeah, she sent me a picture and she said, "Have you got this?" And I was like, "No, I haven't."
Oh, nice.
So she sent me this. It's the most bonkers thing. It's the only one I own. So I've not really any interest in going after these. If Black Cat is even on more of those, but that's kind of a nice little oddity to have on there. But I've got. I need to update my spreadsheet because Black Cat. The problem is that Upper Deck aren't giving me a break.
Because the sets keep coming out right now.
I know. I could kind of do with her being benched for a few years so I can catch up. And also the number of parallels is just a bit outrageous at the moment. It's slightly too much of a good thing.
Yeah, I personally believe I agree with that sentiment too. I even think like to be perfectly honest, I even think like take the latest Marvel Masterpieces set. It's like Spider-Man and Wolverine have 4 1-of-1 cards, I think, in the set. Right.
That's ridiculous.
That kind of dilutes the whole 1-of-1 concept, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, if you think about how many 1-of-1s there are in sports, I guess it's they're 10 a penny. You throw
Yeah.
a dart and you can hit a 1-on-1 from most, just even NFL sets. Forget
Yeah.
about anything else. So so I think Marvel, that's a relatively new thing. I mean, outside of there's this kind of thing at the moment where people are listing on eBay sketch cards as 1-of-1s,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
true
Yeah. You see
1-of-1.
that a lot. Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, so it's a sketch card. Of course, it's a 1-of-1. So I don't kind of buy that they're 1-of-1s in that sense. But if it's a card that's just serial numbered to 1, I don't think I have any Black Cat ones. I've owned a couple of Masterpieces 2018 ones in my time, but I parted with those. The Red Spectrum from that set, but no.
Why would a premier Black Cat collector part with the 1-of-1?
Well, it's not that I never had them. That's what I'm saying. I've never had a Black Cat 1-of-1. No, I owned Masterpieces 2018 didn't have Black Cat in. No, I had from Masterpieces 2018. I had the 1-of-1 Red Spectrum of Wonder Man and of Falcon, both of which I parted with. In fact, I had the full
I
rainbow.
understand.
Yeah, I had the full rainbow of Wonder Man. I love the artwork, and I know who it went to, and it's in a very good home. So I'm happy that's where it is. But no, I've never owned a 1-of-1 of Black Cat. Partly because at this stage, even if it came onto market, I couldn't afford it. I've not got a massive amount of cash to throw around, and I've been too many years chasing too many things at once to actually be able to do that. But I'm happy with as far as I can go with sets. But that's the thing, I've had to be quite pragmatic about it and say, do I go for anything that's numbered to 25 or even to 10? Can I afford to do that consistently? And the answer is no, not anymore.
Yeah. I totally get that. Like I collect Silver Surfer, and I've gotten to a point where I by no means am I to the level that I need to have every card that he's on. I get the cards that I like, and now it's like the ones that I want. It's like even if they came up, like the only like hope would be like that they come on like an eBay bid, and somehow nobody is watching.
Yeah,
which I gotta not into this level, but like for example, when the newest Marvel Masterpieces set came out, there was one that was looking for that was at a 50 that hadn't popped up, and it popped up, and I got it super cheap because everyone was distracted opening Marvel Masterpieces. I was like, great, like. But otherwise, like, the cards that I kind of have left that I'd want for Surfer, like, it's just, I mean, they legitimately can go for $3,000, and it's like, well, that's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that's above I wouldn't spend that much on a card.
I mean, if I was extremely, extremely wealthy, I would, 3,000, of course. But like, that's not.
If we were extremely wealthy, one of us would have hopped on a plane and we'd have done this we could have done this in Vegas, for example.
Yeah.
Just sat around
exactly.
in a private lounge. That would have happened. But no, I think I'm at a point now where I'm very happy with the collection that I've got of Black Cat stuff. I'm kind of starting to ease off. I'm pretty much, I think I'm done with Black Cat sketch chasing. I had over 200 of them a year ago, and I've trimmed it to 79 on official license stock.
Was that 79 a specific number, or did it just happen to be the number that you trimmed down to?
It's a specific number. I'm going to put your comic knowledge to the test now. Why 79?
ASM 194, is that 1979?
That is indeed. Yeah, there we go. So July 1979. So so 79. I've probably got about a dozen or so more that are PSC and non-official stock. But it seemed like a decent number, and I've still got maybe 30 of them left. Sat on eBay waiting for the right person to come along. But no, it was sad to part with them, and it was tough narrowing them down actually. But they've gone to good homes, so I'm happy with that. But I think I did because I've got this spreadsheet, I can work out, okay, this is how many Black Cat cards are known to exist, and this is the percentage that I own. And I can't remember what the percentage of the Black Cat cards there are now, and it will never be 100%. Because I'll never own the Red Spectrum 1-of-1 from 2016.
Yeah.
I'll never own the Red Spectrum 1-of-1 from 2020 or 2022. I will, in terms of printing plates, I think up until very recently, I had almost half of them that were ever made for Black Cat.
Wow.
And it would be tough to move that needle much above 50%, even if I was able to keep up with it. Because again, the printing plates for 2016 I'll never see. There are printing plates from Marvel Beginnings, the Breakthrough covers issues.
Yep.
I've never seen one of those pop up. And obviously, Masterpieces 2022, the new one. One of those, the first one of those that popped up and went on market, sold for $700. It's above what I can play at. So
yeah, I mean, I don't even like when I think of like the surfer cards I want, and I'm actually going to start collecting the thing as well. But even any of those, in any of those things, I don't even consider like the one of one. Like I don't even think about it. Like it wouldn't even go on my list of what I want to find, just because like the reality is it's just not going to be realistic. Like someone's like, "Oh, Rohan, would you want the one of one Surfer Galactus BSG?" And it's like, of course I'd want it. Do I sit up at night waiting, hoping what's going to pop up? No, I'm not even considering that.
You drive yourself mad doing that. I mean, there's very few people that can kind of go that route. More power to them. But I'm just not. If I haven't got it, it's fine. It's in someone else's collection. It's making them happy. C'est la vie. I mean, I've it's interesting. Recently, for about the past year, I've had my Fleer Ultra Spider-Man Purple PMG of Black Cat on eBay. Just sat there at this is the price I want for it. I remember watching your interview with Michael Salter, Cool Cards.
Oh, what he put on his like Wolverine.
For and he was like, "That's my FU price." Well, that's it's up there for my FU price. But seriously, I'm considering trimming, and just because there's a good friend of mine, Keith Boyle, who is a really big set collector. He goes for full sets and all the parallels, but his stopping point is anything serial numbered below 50.
50?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a pretty sensible level to play at.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I might do. I mean, I'm of the mind that my collection is more than the sum of its parts. So if I were to drop anything that was numbered under 50, would I lose any sleep?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. Would I have some more money to go on vacation with the family next year? Probably. So, I kind of look at it like that. I've owned it. I'm happy to have owned it. It's time for someone else to own it.
That's an interesting concept, and I've talked about that a lot. We've talked about that a lot on here with because I was first introduced. I don't know if you know Manu of the 9.9 newsstand.
Yeah.
And I talked about that. I was like, what do you consider of what you? Because he sells a lot, and I'm always like, I feel like that is something that you would want and have forever. If that's not in your PC, what is in your PC? And he kind of talked about, when I've had it and I've moved on from it, I still cherish it it's just as just as valuable to me. Just I don't own it anymore physically. It's totally fine. Like it can be. I've had it. I've experienced it. I'm okay to move on with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I am of the mindset now, more so in the last 2 years, that if anything is numbered to, I'm just going to arbitrarily put a number here, but I think my numbering would probably be 10. Anything 10 or less, I genuinely believe that you're the current custodian of that. That card will have a life beyond you and should have a life beyond you. And you're just the person that has it right now. So, with, because, no, I mean, cards can outlast people now with grading and encapsulation. And a lot of the really limited stuff, short of fire or flood, probably will, and people will pass them on and they'll pass around. So I kind of very firmly believe that Black Cat purple PMG I've got, the Omega 5 of 5, I absolutely love it. It's a beautiful, stunning card. I'm just the one looking after it at the moment. Someone else will be looking after it at some point in the future.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you at all, because you have kids, or a kid, I think.
One,
correct?
yeah.
Is there any thought of like passing it down, do you consider some things like this is a legacy card, or
not really? No,
okay.
I don't really think in those terms. And to be honest with you, I don't know. She's 8, so the next shiny thing is the next shiny thing, and she'll have forgotten about what she was into last week. So she goes through phases of being really into Pokemon.
Yeah.
and then she'll go weeks without looking at anything, because
Mhm.
she's into the next thing. So I think, that's a normal thing for kids. I think she'll
Oh,
settle down,
100%. Yeah.
she'll settle down into it. But no, I don't know. I just don't think of it in those terms. I mean, if she expressed like a serious interest, then maybe, but she might find her own character to collect. I mean, she's really into Spider-Gwen.
Oh, nice.
She loves Spider-Gwen, mind you. So is everyone else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I have little girls and they love that Spider-Man and his friends animated show, and so
yeah, the one on
it's
Disney.
yep, so Spider-Gwen's
It's
in
the
that.
really yeah, it's the one where they're was it Miles Morales is called Spin,
Yeah.
and and they've got really like they've got a female version of Doc Ock
And
and they've got
Electro.
and Electro. Yeah, that's right. And Rhino's just a simpleton. And Green Goblin's hilarious. Green Goblin's
Yeah.
like that kid that always got beat up at school. He's just like really annoyed about it. So yeah, no, it's hilarious. I love that. And the black cat that popped up in season 2 of that. What's that all about? She's just like I don't know if you've seen it. I've not
I
seen
actually
any of
haven't,
those
no.
characters on. I've not. Well, the thing is, none of those characters have been on cards yet.
Hmm.
In that for that, I'm surprised that hasn't happened actually.
Oh, like a set for that show.
A set, but with that incarnation of those characters.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it will happen. When it does, will I go after that black cat? Probably not. I have to tell you. There's only so much you can go after. You got to draw a line somewhere. So you've got Silver Surfer in the thing. Who else? You're going to sign PC. Anyone else?
So in terms of cards, that's it, because my comic collecting is also, again, like we talked about, like you only have so much you can throw at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And my comic interest is a lot more varied in terms of characters. With comics, I collect kind of 3 things. We'll say the main first biggest thing is first appearances. Like,
gotcha.
My whole deal is I'm a big fan of history, and so a first appearance of a character I kind of consider like this is a piece of history, and so
Yeah.
I chase all the big first appearances, and then that's kind of my path. That is what purely guides my collecting is first appearances. From
Nice.
there, I do also, if I find them and there's some I like kind of that very all-time classic iconic covers, and first solo appearances for comics. And that's of all the major characters. So, beyond Silver Surfer and things, Fantastic Four, I'm a big X-Men guy, Wolverine, all that, Hulk, Iron Man, all that stuff. So, outside of that, it's kind of hard to, and I just started thinking after, because like I said, I got to this point with Surfer and it's like, well, the cards I want left are $3,000 and above. And, I do want to kind of still collect some. And so I was like, Spider-Man and Wolverine would probably be my next 2 after Surfer, but like I don't even want to get into that game. Like it has of no interest of me. Not to mention, like, one of the things that's nice about Surfer is because he was banned for so long.
Yeah.
It narrows what you have to search for. Thing is similarly. So anyway, so Wolverine and Spider-Man, it's just like that world is just
it's like playing on insane mode.
Yeah, and so it's like I didn't want to do them, and then so I was like, well, I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. Well, and I should say after Wolverine, I mean, I could theoretically, I'd be happy probably doing any X-Men character.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't really narrow it down there. And then I was like, I also love the Fantastic Four, and Thing has always been my favorite. And so I was like, oh, no one collects, at least that I know of, collects the Thing. And so
I've not seen anyone do it. No.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, I'll do that. And what's funny about that is, whereas Surfer, like, there's just cards come up maybe once every who knows how many years. Thing, almost every card I've researched I can find. It's just the hard part is like not wanting to go buy it all now, because that's not fun and it's like not realistic, and and so I just kind of have to pick and choose and just take my time with it, which is totally fine. And what's gonna be fun about it is like there's gonna be pieces that I can collect that I just have never even had an opportunity to with Surfer, which is really cool. Like I've really been into the 2011, 2012 Marvel Beginnings, the comic cover autographs.
Yeah.
So I've made a list of like all of the ones that have the Thing on them, and I'm trying now. Some of those, like when they're autographed by Stan Lee, are in that multi-$1,000 range, and that's not gonna happen. But like I got one this week for $20. So
yeah, I had a fair chunk of those autos. I think I've got about a dozen left that no one seems to want, which is crazy because one of them's got Larry Lieber's autograph. And it's a journey into mystery, and it's beautiful. But I think everyone got a bit excited about Beginnings before Beginning set came out, and everyone's kind of moved on now.
Yeah. But to further answer your question, though, if let's just say I exhaust the thing route and I still want to do someone else, the characters I do think about are Cable.
Okay.
I like X-Force, and then I kind of also really like the idea of a more obscure character, and I've always been a big fan of Shatterstar.
Yes. Okay.
And so I thought he would be cool, which is kind of funny. I was actually cruising on the MCCW Facebook page, and someone put up for sale the new masterpiece. So 2022 masterpieces. It was the Red Spectrum for $3,500, the Amber 1 for $2,000, and then
that'd be Julio.
And then a printing plate for like $400. He was like, take it all for $5,000. I was like, well, I'll see if it has Shatterstar. I can't collect at that level.
Well, I was going to say, if you were going to collect Shatterstar, start there, and then everything else is easy. So
yeah, exactly.
That's the good way of looking at it.
Yeah,
that is crazy. Do you how many comics have you got? Have you got like vast quantities, or is it just the keys that you've
of comics? Oh, my comic collection is under 50.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So I especially now I trend towards the vintage. So I've got a lot of Bronze Age, and I'm kind of playing in the Silver Age game, and it's one of those ones like I don't get comics every week. I don't get them I can go months because what I'm saving up for can be a little pricey. And so my comic collection is very small. Like I have like one box of I think I have maybe 10 to 15 graded comics. And then I think my short box is about a third of the way full of raw comics.
Wow. Okay. Right. Yeah. That's good. Because all these that I've been carefully curating, and it's waxed and waned over the years. And you can see that this goes down as well. So,
and that's all just Spider-Man?
No, about 2/3 I'd say Spider-Man. There's a lot of Ghost Rider. There's a lot of Doctor Strange. There's most of Marvel Comics Presents, Marvel Age, fair smattering of indie stuff, Star Trek, X-Files. I'm about to part with a lot.
All of it.
It's all going, apart from 1.5 short boxes down there.
Got it. What is the reasoning behind parting with it? Is it just you're over it, or it's time to move on, or?
I'm not reading them. Honestly, I don't have time to read them all. And there's an awful lot here. The stuff that I like, I'm getting in the collected hardback editions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So for example, a couple of weeks ago, I got the omnibus of Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man, which has 116. It's also got all the covers he did, including the ones for Marvel Age and, Marvel Tales and things like that. And it's just beautiful. And it also, it just suits the way that I read stuff now. I haven't got time to be taking out.
Oh yeah, I would if I wanted to endeavor
taking the book out,
it would definitely be
putting it back in, and getting the next one. It's just like, goodness 100%. It's just I'm kind of past that. And listen, I absolutely loved the heck out of all these. Have I read them all? No, and that's the other reason. I'm like, listen, this is crazy. I've got books that I haven't read, so let's just focus on the stuff that I really enjoy and really like. So I'm not really a big X-Men guy, but I did read House of X, Powers of X. Loved it. So when I've got some cash, I'm going to get the hardback copy of that.
Nice,
because it's just a stunning. I'd love to read it again.
Nice. Talk to me. What's in the short box and a half piece that you are keeping? What are you keeping?
Black Cat. So there's an awful lot of Black Cat. I've got all of her solo issues from the recent 2 runs that she had, including excuse me, most of the variant covers. I've got the original run from the 90s, the 4-issue run. I've got loads of variant cover appearances and things like that. And then in the other one, I've kept stuff that I kind of can't part with. So I've got Marvels,
Mhm.
the original Alex Ross, Kurt Busiek Marvels. I've got I've got Amazing Spider-Man 194, so I'm keeping that. And 195.
Now, is that raw graded? Tell me.
Oh, it's raw. Yeah. I think I've got 3 graded books.
Okay.
In total. I will be getting more, but I've never had that much wall space to display them. So, so I've never really focused on it. But the other 4 that I kept is I ended up with 2 sets of these. Is the hologram covers from Spidey's 30th anniversary.
Oh yeah.
In '92. So
Web
90.
365.
Yeah, 365. Spec Spider-Man. I can't remember the issue of that. And Spider-Man 16, I want to say.
Yeah.
No, it's not 16. Later than that. Anyway, they're in that box. I could get them out and look, but I can't be asked. But those I would love to get graded. So I absolutely love those. That for me, and in fact, I've got the holograms. You could get the holograms as a separate collectible.
Oh, I've never seen that. That's cool.
Oh, it's stunning. It's the holograms that are on those books.
Yeah.
At the same size they're on those books, and it doesn't, because as soon as you get it in the light like that, it doesn't work. But you can get the gist of it. And on the back, it's got a massive bag.
Yeah, that's great. I've never seen that.
Big thing. Yeah, you can get signed ones as well.
Oh,
really
cool.
difficult to get. The only thing with them is, and this one started to have it, the hollows they're starting to get the white on them at the bottom, so they do degrade over time.
Yeah,
but they are just beautiful. So this, I would love to get this. It's still in cling film, actually.
Yeah, so I can see that.
I will get that framed at some point. 1992. So this is, good grief, this is older than most of the people watching, I'm sure.
Actually, I would say most people that watch this are probably 90s kids like myself. So.
Yeah, they're going to be approaching the middle age.
Yeah. Okay, so then talk to me. At the very beginning, you said you were frustrated, and that's when you started 2 Facebook pages. I'm assuming those 2 Facebook pages are the MCCW and the MMC.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So what is the frustration that you were? Let me just take a guess. Is it that it was hard to connect in England and find people and pieces and things like that, or what was the frustration?
Yeah, no, that was a big part of it. And the other big part of it was that the forums that were there just seemed to be a little bit unfriendly.
Is that like blowout? Like I hear blowout,
yeah,
but I don't even know what that is.
Blowout to a degree. Yeah, blowout forums. Blowout to a degree, but also some of the other Facebook groups that were there. I'd had some negative experiences where people would just, randomly just like make really outrageous comments. One guy, I remember, this is one of the instigating things actually. One guy had made a racist comment to someone else, and I called him up on it, and he started having a go at me, and he clearly then looked at my profile and started saying stuff about my wife, my kid, and I was like, yeah, that's beyond the line. And the admins blocked him, but they also seemed a bit like worn down by it and a bit world weary, and I kind of get where they're coming from now, to be fair, after 4 years and change of doing it. But I just thought, okay, I want to start something that's just a little bit more respectful than that. And I've been in communities on Facebook that focused on video games collecting, and they had some pretty decent rule sets about not doing deals on PM, just keeping it on comments so everyone can see what's going on, and about just just running a tight ship, basically. So if anyone's disrespectful, they're out. So that was kind of the vibe behind it. And then so MCCW was first, and at that point it was called Marvel Global Fans or something like that. I wasn't feeling very inspired, and I'm useless at, I can't do Photoshop or anything like that. I'm just it's not my forte. So it was kind of there, and it was ticking along, and there were people in it that I kind of become pals with from the other groups, like guy from New Zealand, guy from Texas, a few other cats that I knew, who I'd also known from Scoundrel before that, because Scoundrel was the big forum that used to exist kind of late noughties through to about 2014, 2015. It kind of just went, because everyone went to Blowout, and then they went to Facebook. People like I migrated. And then after that had been running, that started in April, and then I think in June I started MMC, Marvel Masterpieces, just for Marvel Masterpieces cards. And when I launched that, the day I launched it, Dave DeVries joined, who was one of the 4 artists on Masterpieces.
Join the Facebook page.
Join the Facebook group. Yeah. MMC. And on the day he joined, he invited Joe Driscoll, Julie Bell, Vice Vallejo, a couple of other cats as well. The original creators.
Yeah.
And by this time, there were probably about 100 members. And as soon as people, those creators like Joe Driscoll started dropping in like every week or so and posting something like a tidbit of trivia or something that he'd found. And Julie Bell would interact with people, and this was like, and so all of a sudden it became the bigger group for a while, and then Marvel Masterpieces 2018 came out, so I kind of did a countdown to that, and everyone got really excited about it, and then it was breaking on physical, and then it was breaking on EPAC, and that group was going bonkers, and then by that point MCCW, as it then was, started to lift as well.
Real quick, do you at all know what got Dave DeVries to join? Did you ever?
Think, no, I have a feeling he may have already found MCCW. He may have already been in there. I can't honestly recall. But I've got so Dave DeVries, I thank for 2 things. I thank him for kind of lighting the blue touch paper on that one, and also he was the first guest on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
And he was just like, I want to come on soon as. And I think he was on what became episode 4, but we'd actually recorded quite a few at that point. So he was due to be on episode 6, but he wanted it to come out earlier. So we put him on episode 4. We hadn't got a clue what we were doing. But he was great. He was a laugh. So yeah, Dave DeVries, and he very quickly designed a logo and a header footage for MMC. But at that time, which stayed for a good 6 months or so, and just did it. I've just said, oh, by the way, I've just knocked this together in Photoshop. Yeah, have that.
Nice.
And it was all the Wolverines from Masterpieces 95.
That's
just
awesome.
To go at the top. Yeah, it's brilliant. So Dave, I got a lot of time for Dave. Really, really cool guy. So yeah, and it's just been since then. It's just been like just holding on. I didn't have any grand plan for it. I just wanted a place where people could, fairly trade and sell stuff if they wished. But it was never intended to be a buy sell trade group. It was meant to be a place for discussion and showing stuff off, really. But it's most of the time, most posts now are buy sell trade of some kind, which is fine. But I think that's just the way of it. I think that's cyclical. With so much product coming out this year, everyone's trying to move stuff, and no one's got any money.
Yeah.
So
2023 again, kids. This goes back to like being kind of thankful that Surfer's just coming off ban and maybe he's back on ban, and nobody knows. Like there's literally something coming out and again, same with the thing. There's something coming out, I feel like every 2 weeks, and it's like I don't even know how people manage to keep up with it.
It is. Listen, I said this a few weeks back on the podcast. We'll look back on this time. We'll think how blessed we were because we've just been through 2 years of drought.
Yeah,
I think we've had more sets this year than we have in the last 5 combined, and that includes the year or 2 of pre-COVID when Upper Deck was still motoring, but they weren't motoring as much as they are now. I think part of that is driven by the fact that I'm pretty sure they contractually have to produce a set for every MCU / Disney Plus product, whether they like it or not. And of course, they've been putting out so much stuff. So I think that has, obviously literally doubled the amount of product that they're putting out.
Yeah, that's got to be it's kind of funny because like I see some of those like MCU product sets come out and I'm like, is anyone into that? Like, I think there's like a set coming out for like the Hawkeye show, for example. Oh, you're into all that then?
Yeah. Well, no, so this is the thing. I used to go after I used to try and go after every set. Okay, in a big way. COVID put paid to that, and I had a sudden shock realization that it's just not possible, and I don't have enough money or space. So I really kind of trimmed down, and I'll probably trim down more actually. So now throughout this year, I'm just going for an element of each set that I like. And for some sets, nothing really sings to me. But with MCU stuff over the last 3-4 years, I've really gotten back into autographs and costume relics.
And
And
costume what?
And costume relics.
Oh,
So when
yeah,
I got into when I kind of started getting Marvel stuff in 2007, at that point I'd already started getting non-sports. So I'd gotten really into Lost, the sets from that. I'd gotten really into Battlestar Galactica, the noughties reboot of that, the cards from that. Firefly. I got, I think I got a case of the Firefly set that came out from Inkworks. Got all the autos. Brilliant. So, I went for a phase of doing that, and then that kind of went away while I was focusing on Marvel. But it's kind of come back into balance over the last year or so. So now I would say on the Marvel side of things, it's mainly MCU autos, or if there's an insert in the set that I like, usually the metal cards. I'll go after those. Or it's Black Cat, or it's the masterpieces and some of the original art sets. And that tends to be the stuff I go after. But I've been trying. I've got a box of Hawkeye up there to open, which I'll be opening on the podcast Instagram at some point when I get a moment.
Nice.
But yeah, I've just been trying to keep it interesting and trying to find, there's all this stuff coming out. Rather than try and go for all of it, I'm just like finding little moments of joy that I really dig.
Let me ask you. I was like, so I've seen you open boxes on the podcast Instagram page.
Mm-hmm.
You just talked about like the MCU autos is what you like to chase. Do you open for fun, or do you rip boxes to find those autos, or do you find those autos singles after?
Singles after. I can't afford to buy that many boxes. I simply can't. I can't do it. And also I've got the extra hurdle of getting it over here. Having said that, I have become completely smitten with the movie Eternals.
Really? Okay, that's very interesting.
Which is, the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, I get it. It's cool. Sat me a little bit, and then when the card set came out, I got a box of it, and I opened it, and the cards were beautiful, beautiful quality. Right, the design of them, they'd really like properly leaned into the visual design of the film, and so I went back and watched it a second time, and on the second viewing, I was like, okay. I now, having seen it, and if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to.
I've seen it.
Yeah, it's been but a lot of people haven't. It's been out 2 years, but basically, when you watch it for the second time, certain characters are up to stuff that you didn't realize the first time, and so when you view it through that lens, it kind of has a different spin on it. And I've since watched it a third time, and it's not a perfect film, but it's a glorious film, and it's possibly one of the bravest MCU films.
I think now Eternals, even going into before the movie came out, it's just not a known.
It's bonkers. The concept of it.
It's not a known, and it's not really a known quantity when it comes to when Iron Man comes out. People know what Iron Man is. When Eternals was coming out, I was like, "What the hell is Eternals?" And I'm someone that grew up, with Marvels. And I think people just automatically panned it for that. Do I think it's up there in the top 10 best MCU movies? No, but I wouldn't put it anywhere near the bottom 10 personally.
No. Yeah, I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it either. I think it couldn't be any other type of movie and still be Eternals.
Yeah, I just think at the end of the day, people still just don't know the Eternals, and so therefore they're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
It is also I am curious, and you hear that in the new Captain America movies when they're finally going to do something with it. But like Eternals came out a couple years ago now, and we've had a couple years of MCU movies, and no one has talked about the celestial
massive great bloody head sticking out.
Coming out of the ocean.
Someone's going to mention that at some point. It's like, do you think we should? Nah.
Yeah, okay, but apparently that's where they're going to find like adamantium in the new Captain America film, and that's going to be something that like countries are just like countries want vibranium, they want adamantium, and so that's going to cause conflict.
Oh, okay.
I think and I'm assuming because again, this is me now. Think like in the in the Wakanda Forever movie, there's what's her name? Valerina Constantine.
Oh,
Julia
Julia
Dreyfus, from
from
Seinfeld plays her.
Yeah.
And she has that scene when the British guy is like, talking about vibranium and Wakanda and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I dream of being able to just like go and take it. And then like having the US. So I imagine that's kind of what they do. It's like, okay, we can't get vibranium, but now we find adamantium. And that's just kind of where I'm assuming it goes.
Well,
and the conflict
I'm here for it. I loved Hawkeye as well. So yeah, it's interesting. I've been enjoying the Disney Plus content more than I have the movies over the last year or so. I didn't think Wakanda Forever. I was kind of bored. I won't lie to you. And
it gets very long.
Yeah,
and
I don't like Namor as a character either. Can't stand Namor as a character. So it was kind of always had its odd
that
against
interpretation of Namor or Namor in general.
Oh, I can't stand Namor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a punk. Can't stand him. What else? Guardians 3. Guardians 3, I just got a bit bored. I didn't really know what was going on.
I do not like, because I'm a big Adam Warlock fan, and I do not like the take of Adam Warlock in it. Like an idiot baby, like I did not like it at all.
Yeah, I like Will Poulter as an actor. I didn't mind that so much. I was just like, I think I'd come off watching the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which I think is possibly the worst thing that Marvel's put out. I mean, I think it was supposed. I mean, it's supposed to be a bit tongue in cheek, but come on. I mean, She-Hulk I thought was brilliant. I loved it. I loved the concept of it and the conceit and the breaking the fourth wallness of it. WandaVision I thought was absolutely incredible. Falcon and Winter Soldier clearly really badly affected by COVID. So I think they had their work cut out for them, but it did what it needed to. It got characters from there to there, so that they can go off and do other stuff. Trouble is, you've got to wait 3 or 4 years before you see them doing the other stuff, which is just like Secret Invasion's the one I'm struggling with. I've got 2 episodes in. I can't be doing with it.
And the finale of, because I was actually into Secret Invasion through the first couple, and then so I stuck with it. The finale, by far the worst. That may be the worst thing. So, the worst thing the MCU's ever put out. It was. Oh my gosh.
Where was Loki? I'm gagging to watch Loki season 2. I haven't started it yet.
I just finished it last night. It is so good.
Yeah, I mean Hiddleston. I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah, he's fantastic, and I think Loki 2 is by far the best show that Marvel has done.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
that's good. So I think, listen, I think a lot of people are kind of saying, oh, it's the end. The MCU, it's like peaked, it's like done. Superhero movies are over. I don't think so at all. I just think we had too much of a good thing for quite a while.
100%. Like the thing is like what I've told people is Disney didn't buy Marvel to make the Infinity Saga and then be like, peace out. They bought they bought Marvel to make Marvel movies and Marvel products for the next century plus.
Yeah.
Right. And so like to think that. Now, am I frustrated with a lot of the products that they've put out? Obviously, like I've not been happy with the MC, but like to think that Disney can create content with this IP for 100 years and think it's just going to all be, peaky is unrealistic, right? There's going to be peaks and there's going to be valleys. And it's going to peak again and it's going to crash again and it's going to peak again and it's going to crash again. And things, and I understand that, and so even though I'm not happy with it, I still go to the movies. I still want to go to the. And the thing is like I want it because I want them to continue.
Yes.
So,
I think and again, I think back to all the years where there wasn't any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'd rather be in a world where they're making this stuff.
Yeah, and
some of it might not be for everyone.
And it'll be interesting too because they just announced this week because of the strikes and things like that, the delays that caused. In 2024, the only MCU movie is Deadpool 3.
Because they're about to resume filming, aren't they?
Yeah, and so there's only going to be one, whereas usually we've had about 3 or 4 movies a year, and so now we're going to just one, and so we'll see how that goes.
You know what? I'm kind of fine with having a little bit of a little bit of a rest.
Yeah,
there's a lot there, and I kind of like to. So basically, I was getting the Eternals one was me answering your question. I've got 8 physical boxes of Eternals on the way.
Oh, nice.
Because it didn't perform as well, and no one's as into it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pretty cheap. it's cheaper for me to buy 8 physical boxes than it is to buy. I got them for a third of the price that
Nice.
EPAC has them at. And so if I'm going to be hunting for the rarer hits like the actor autographs, I might as well do it through physical boxes
Yeah. When it's
than
that cheap.
from EPAC. Yeah.
Yeah. Do
It's
you
like,
those autos? Is it any auto or the specific main cast, or because I've seen they have autos from like some of the even lower tier characters.
to be well, the thing is with Eternals is that there's 10 of them. There's
Yeah.
10 main characters, and then you've got Kit Harington from Game of Thrones, who's in like 15 minutes of the movie,
Yeah.
and yet he's one of the top signers. Well, not in the context of that movie, he's not, and he's supposed to be being Black Knight. But when are they going to do that? I don't know. I don't really care either.
Yeah.
Blade is what I want, but they have got 6, I believe, of the Eternals. So they've got Gemma Chan as Cersei. They've got Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos, who also does the voice of Miles' father in the Spider-Verse.
Oh, I didn't know
movies.
that.
Yeah, he's a brilliant actor as well. Who else they got? They've got the young girl that played Sprite. They've got Barry Keoghan, who plays Druig, the Irish actor.
Yeah.
They've got someone else.
Richard Madden for
Richard Madden. No, he didn't sign actually. So
Oh.
he was one of the ones that didn't. Salma Hayek didn't. And it's not that they chose not to. Because I've had the fortune of having Upper Deck on the podcast quite a few times, and I remember I asked Grant, the head of product development, this, and ultimately it's often the case that the actor, the deal they've done for the movie, nothing to do with the cards, means that they're whatever the deal is between the actor and the studio doesn't always include ancillary products and their image use on ancillary products. So, for example, they made this Eternal set. They had to make the entire set without using a single image of Angelina Jolie.
Oh.
Now, they wanted to do their own deal directly with Angelina Jolie, but they couldn't make it happen in time for the set.
Yeah, I imagine too, like, because if you take Eternals, right, like Angelina Jolie, in terms of like tier leveled actors and actresses, she's way higher than the rest of the cast. So it's like,
yeah,
they may get a group deal with some of these guys, but Angelina Jolie's she's her own separate entity. And so like, what can you do? I get that.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting that you said that. So you've had Upper Deck on, and I was actually talking with this last night with Pankit, the Captain America collector.
Oh yeah, Pankit's a buddy. Yeah, he's a good mate. Yeah.
And we were talking about the beginnings autos, and we were talking about like, there's like some triple autos and some dual autos and things like that. And we're like, he was like, can you imagine what the process must have been for Upper Deck to manage that? And I was just like, I guess I never really thought about that, like what they had to do that. And so have you ever had any insight onto that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we had I say we, it was we for a long time. It's now me. But I still say we. One of the earlier Upper Deck episodes, we had Bubby Johansson, who's one of the guys that was at Upper Deck when they put that set together originally. And he tells us, your kids are awake, by the way.
Hold on one second. Let me pause real quick, and then let me go grab her real quick.
No worries.
All right. Yeah, right. Back on. So continue on.
I can't remember what we.
I don't remember. We were talking about the Marvel Beginnings autograph cards.
That's it. Yeah. So we have Bubby Johansson on. Now Bubby tells this story. I said, go back and listen to it. At that point, the podcast was always meant to be an audio podcast, and the primary format still is. I've just been putting the recordings of the audio up on as a video on YouTube over the past year. So
It's
good. And it's always meant to be an audio.
When you have people show off stuff.
Yeah. Because for you, you know what, it saves me time, because for the longest time I still do the posts. I just don't have to put all the photos, tasting notes or the show notes basically, and I put it onto the podcast Facebook page. And I used to have to put so many images with each post. Just so if you want to go and see what we're talking about, go and have a look at that, And so it kind of cuts that out. That's the main reason why I started doing it. But anyway, he was on, and he talked about the fact that they had that set and they mapped out the checklist of it, because it's free. Marvel Beginnings is 3 parts: Series 1, Series 2, Series 3. 180 card base set in each. So that's 540 card base set. They had all that planned out. They had planned out where it goes, and it was all on this computer. The hard drive crashed, so they paid. I think they paid like several $1,000s to get the hard drive recovered, so they wouldn't lose all of this set build that they had on that hard drive. And he talks about that was the first set that they did comic cuts, and there's actually a video on YouTube where you can see Bubby actually cutting out the comic panels.
Oh, very cool.
Selecting them and he's interviewed. It's quite funny seeing, because that's obviously 10 years before we recorded, so it's interesting seeing, oh, that was you then, you've grown. And so so he's still at Upper Deck. I think he's like he looks after the more TCG side of the things now as head of product development there. But yeah, he did touch on the autos, but I can't remember. I'll be honest with you, I haven't listened to the episode since we recorded it. So go and find it. I'll send you a link, and if you want to put it in, I'm pretty sure he does talk about the autos.
Yeah, no, I definitely want
to. But I can't remember any major stories from it. I don't think it was a massive thing. But
what's also crazy about that is the Stan Lee signed probably more cards. No, I know he did sign more cards than any other creator, and that was just 5 years before he passed. And it's like I couldn't that.
Yeah, he was still signing loads.
Yeah. But talking about like Surfer cards I can't, afford. Two of the Grail cards I would say for me would be from that set.
Yeah.
There's a Fantastic Four cover card and a Silver Surfer 1 cover card.
That's right.
And they both have Stan Lee signings. There's some dual autos on those.
Yeah.
And I talked to, because actually Pankit knew someone who each had he had the Silver Surfer 1 dual with Lee and Sinat. And then there was someone else that had the Fantastic Four 48 with the Stan Lee SIG. And he's like, just so you know where they are. And I was like, okay. And, I was just like, I messaged them both and just to like ping them, just hear what they'd say.
Yeah.
Only one responded. And the guy was like, that's never going anywhere. He's like, I've turned down offers as high as $3,000. And I was like, yeah, well, maybe one day one pops up and no one's paid attention.
Maybe one day. Yeah. I mean, there's only one Stan Lee auto I'd like for my collection. I don't have it. It's the Silver Age set from '98. It's the auto on that. That's the only one I need to own.
Is that the Marvel Creators Collection set?
Yeah, no, it's not. It came out the same year. There were two sets that came out from Skybox, and Marvel Creators Collection was one of them. The other one was the Silver Age. The Silver Age auto lineup is pretty much like Marvel. It's John Romita Sr.
Oh, is that the one where they have their cards of them actual selves?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes, that's right. Marvel Creators Collection isn't to be overlooked. It's got a deep autograph roster, actually, but it's the images on that are from the comics. But you've got people like Peter David in there. You've got Kurt Busiek in there. It's got some pretty decent people in there, and I've maybe got about a dozen of them. I think there's about 30 of them from that one, and they're all on card.
Yeah,
on card autos. They're some of these guys aren't around anymore.
Yeah,
especially from the Silver Age set. I mean, most of them aren't around anymore. So yeah, it's definitely worth having. But I don't know when I'll ever be able to afford that Stan Lee card. maybe if I punt all this lot off.
Yeah. Have you found a buyer for that? Just
no, not yet. Okay. No, I know I want to move it. The thing is, once I make the decision, it's like, okay, yeah. Once you make the decision, you're like, yeah, it feels like the right decision. It's like, okay, it's going.
How are you intending to move it then? Like,
I want to move it as a lot. I can't be asked with listing them here and there because obviously everyone will want Amazing Spider-Man 300, for example. So I don't know if I can't find a buyer for the lot at the price that I'd like, then I'll chunk it up, but I'll do it in lots rather than singles.
Have you thought about just like walking it into a comic shop?
I could do, but for the fact that there aren't any around here for me to do so, and I don't drive. I don't have my own car, so and even if I did have a car, it'd need to be a pretty big car to fit it all in.
Yeah.
So it's quite a random thing to take in. So let's face it, most comic dealers would probably want to pay a bit less than.
Oh no, I mean you're talking at best probably, and usually like the online guys are higher, but like I mean, at a store, I mean you're talking 25 to 50%, if not
Yeah.
even less.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean, I haven't valued it. I haven't got a list together yet. So, but I know it's going. So,
yeah.
when it goes, it'll make someone very happy. But yeah, it'd be nice to have it, because when it's gone, I'm going to put in a big unit here, and all the stuff that you can't see over here that I've had to move out of my studio because of the work, all of my binders and all of my stuff that's stacked up all around me will live
Do
in here.
you, with all that stuff, the binders and all that stuff, are you someone that you got it, it's there, and that's it? Or do you like regularly like pull the binder off, flip through these, just kind of reminisce?
Not so much in the last couple of years, because we moved and it was all stored away. So for Marvel Masterpieces Collectors MMC, I used to do a thing. I put it on hiatus, and I'm determined to start it again. In fact, I posted I was going to start it again, and then never did. I used to do a thing called Daily Masterpieces, which was every day I would take a photo of a Marvel Masterpieces card from any of the sets throughout the years, and
just
that
any
would be-
character, any card.
yeah, I just randomly pick something out. And I did that for over 4 years, like every day. And it was great because I got to look through and think, okay, what have I done? And it got to the point where I was like, actually, I can't remember what I've already done.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't keeping a list or anything like that. So what I want to do this time is I'm actually going to do a Google sheet, and I'm going to put in every base card, basically, throughout from 92 through to 2022. I'm going to put every base card, every holofoil, every battle spectra. I'm not going to put in all parallels like the what ifs or the gold signatures and purple and whatever have you.
Yeah.
I'm just because I don't own them, so I can't photograph them, and B, because I just, it's more about the art and the card rather than all the different parallels of
The
it.
little foil on the side.
Yeah, exactly. And once I do that, every row will have a number. So I'll use random.org. So it truly will be random.
Yeah.
And then I'll start again. It was just a really nice way to just showcase a card every day.
Yeah.
Plus, to start the group, it was good content.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something good to show.
Yeah.
And those were what got the creators engaging, because I tagged them.
Oh yeah.
And then they'd be like, especially on Instagram, because there's a lot of the artists are on Instagram but not on Facebook, for example. So it was just a really good way to get engagement with the artists as well. And some of the artists would be like, I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
And then someone would see them comment and start asking them questions, and you'd see collectors interact with the artists, which was brilliant. So and that made someone's day. Then job done.
Yeah, you said in that Facebook group that Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell were two people that joined in. The card I would definitely want to talk to them about is that 96 Masterpieces Double Impact, the Silver Surfer. Oh, yeah. That thing is just a work of art, man.
Yeah.
That's like that is one of my two favorite cards there is of the Silver Surfer.
Yeah. Boris might have a Facebook account. He doesn't use it. Julie's very active though. She's very active on both Facebook and Instagram. We spoke to them for the
I've listened to those episodes.
Yeah. And yeah, they're great. I was rabbit in headlights for that one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness me. But they're lovely people. They're really nice. Really approachable. So yeah, I strongly recommend it if you get a chance to speak to either of them.
I would love to. Yeah. What is the future of the podcast? Is it just kind of continuing with what you're doing, or is there anything else you want to do as well? Or
to be honest with you, I'm assessing that right now myself. Obviously, I had 3 years where it was two of us, and then there's been the last year where there's just been me. And it's interesting. Each year's gone through a different kind of cycle of stuff. So the first year was just kind of finding our feet and talking about stuff and trying things, and the second year was COVID year, so we did we interviewed Julie Boris, Simone Bianchi, Greg Hildebrandt, Bill Sienkiewicz. We had focus and creative focus and time to do that sort of stuff. The third year was kind of like the boom in the market and all the turbulence, for want of a better word. It was called that, and and that kind of turned into a little bit introspective. And then this year's just been okay. Let's just try and just enjoy some conversations with people and hear some stories, and talk about stuff. I don't know what will be next. I've given thought to maybe knocking it on the head. That said, I am enjoying it, but I've stopped beating myself up about having to have an episode up every week, because for a long time I would get up in my head about the fact that I'd missed an episode, and be like, I'm letting people down. I haven't put an episode out this week, but I've got other stuff going on. It's hard enough getting an episode up as it is, around work and family and other stuff I've got to do. So
yeah.
So I've kind of stopped beating myself up about it. But yeah, I do want to do other stuff. I'm not sure what yet. I've got a few ideas. I'm not sure. But I have the two. I have four Instagrams.
You have 4.
Who needs 4 Instagrams? I've got my personal one.
I guess I have 2. I have my personal and I have the
I got my personal one. Then I've got the MM Collectors, which is the kind of Instagram version of MMC, and that's the one I was putting the daily masterpieces on. Then I've got the podcast one at the MCC Pod that's on your screen, and then I've got my PC one, which is Mr. Felicia Hardy.
Yeah.
And I haven't really I haven't had the mental and the creative bandwidth to put anything much on that this year. Last year I did loads, but this year I just haven't. There's only so much. There's that line.
What's funny is because I've owned a business and like had to do social media for it. It's shocking how long that can take of your day.
Yeah.
Like it could literally be like a 45-minute adventure to post a photo, and you're like, what the hell did that take so long for?
I know, it's ridiculous, which is why I like the daily masterpieces, because actually that was a relatively quick process, and I'd often do a couple of photos in the same go. White background, front and back of the card, decent photo, bosh, up. There you go. But honestly, some of the guys, that's the thing. When the podcast started, there was nothing else talking about Marvel cards at all. Now, and most of it's on YouTube, there's half a dozen.
Yeah.
And some of these guys, I honestly don't know how you're able to have a career that earns you enough money to be able to play at the level you do, and with the family size some of these guys have got, and do as much as you do on. I genuinely don't understand how that's able to work. But yeah, hats off to them. I mean, there's you can basically Coke or Pepsi. Used to, it's no longer Coke or Pepsi. You can have 7-Up, Sprite, or Diet Fanta. Just pick your poison. There's content out there for you.
Yeah.
And I've kind of gotten to the point where I was, we did start to try and do like breaking news, first news about sets and things like that. I've stopped trying to do that now because I'm in a different time zone for a start. I haven't got the time to do it. So, if someone else has got time to pull over and do a little video in their car about news that's just come out and put it online straight away, so be it. But I'm not going to try and be that person. So there's different types of content. You want news now. The podcast isn't the place. This podcast isn't the place. Tried to be at one point, but not anymore.
I will tell you, just as a quick aside to what you were just saying, like kind of the way I manage that situation. My parents live like 20 minutes away, and they would want to see the grandkids every day. Yeah. But I can't go to my parents' house every day. I'm not doing that. But I go once a week after work on Wednesdays.
Right.
And obviously we're at a different time today because you're in England, but most people that are stateside. So when I go once a week on Wednesday, that's actually the same night that we record. So I actually record most of our episodes at my parents' house, because I then go upstairs into their guest room, do the podcast, and they're messing with the kids downstairs.
Right.
And so like it creates a kind of way to kind of mesh them together and do both at the same time.
Yeah.
They love it because it's a regularly occurring thing. My kids love it because they get spoiled to all hell, and it gives me the time to do this.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing as well. I don't have time to watch all the stuff that's out there. I mean, there's so much content. So the thing is, most of it's on when I'm asleep, and I'd love to go on and join some of this some of this like live streams that happen and things like that, where you go on, and you can jump on. But it all happens. It literally all happens overnight, my time. So I wake up in the morning, and all of a sudden there'll be like 2 lots of 3-hour content up on YouTube. I haven't got time to watch through all that.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can have it on in the background at work, but not if I want to concentrate on either thing successfully
Yeah.
and maintain a job. So, you know, it's difficult. I have to be quite selective with stuff. And you know, I imagine people are, you know, because the podcast I do isn't a short podcast.
Yeah.
And you know, some people have criticized on that before, and it'd be like, well, okay, that's fine. I could try and do a shorter one, but then I could just stay doing what I'm doing, which is authentic to what I want to do.
Yeah.
So if you want a shorter bite-sized podcast, there are other podcasts out there for you.
Totally.
You know, I'm kind of we did have some criticism. We did start trying to push out 45, 50-minute episodes as opposed to an hour and a half, you know, 100-minute ones. But because it's conversational, there's kind of no end point.
Yep.
The natural end of the conversation will happen when it happens.
Yeah.
You know, usually I've got a 2-hour window because that's what my wife affords me, and that's 2 hours that I'm not with my kid.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You know, it's
totally. And I on that, like, I kind of think because our episodes are the same thing, like almost every, you know, and we're kind of coming close to that point, the 90-minute mark, and that's kind of the average.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is like, you know, would I love to be the biggest podcast out there? Sure. But like, I do this more for my enjoyment because it's great.
Yes.
And so it's like, I could care less if we have 10,000 subscribers or 10. It's like, this is my weekly thing that I look forward to do and enjoy. And I don't mind going long because it's just, like you said, the conversation, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. I'm in this for 2 things. I'm in it for myself because I'd be lying if I said otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like having the engagement and the interaction because I usually wake up and I feel like I've missed the party. You know, that's you know, you know, it sucks. You know, it's just the way it is. You know, there's no tiny violin playing. It's just I'm in a different country. And you know, I collect in American art form, so the most of the scene for it is in America.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. The other thing is I like hearing the stories and putting out content that people will find value in if it helps other collectors. So when I do an Upper Deck episode, it's great because we get to hear about all the insider stuff, and it's great. And they'll often tell me a few things off air that I'm like, motherfucker, that's brilliant. I can't believe you just told me that, you know, that I know is coming up. I can't talk about it because, you know, there's that trust. If I broke that trust with them, they wouldn't come on again. You know, they wouldn't give me access. But in doing that, I enjoy it because I get to hear about stuff. They tell me stuff, but also that stuff goes out there for other people and they can enjoy it. And they can also plan and think, oh, I'm really looking forward to that set, which is obviously Upper Deck's MO by coming on, you know, helps promote their stuff to the hobby.
Yeah.
But you know, it's been equally as enjoyable as talking to, you know, the guy who marketed and designed the Masterpieces 92 set with Bob Budiansky. We tracked him down and spoke to him during COVID year. And he's completely now, he works somewhere else in not-for-profit, you know, left the card industry over 2 decades ago. So, you know, and it took a few weeks to convince him. I was like, listen, I just want to hear your story. You know, so it's become this kind of, you know, there are episodes that's become a kind of an oral history of, okay, these are the people who created the set, or these are the people that did this, or the collectors, or the artists, you know, and it's just, so, you know, as a body of content, hopefully there's something in there for everyone. I mean, I'm coming up to 200 episodes.
Nice.
I don't know what I'm going to do for episode 200. You know, we had Julian Boris for episode 50, Warren Martinek for episode 100. Episode 150 was Joe Jusko.
That's big.
You know, I don't know. Episode 200 might just be me and the dog sat around.
Well, maybe with your love of the MCU, you can get an MCU actor or actress to come on for.
Oh, you know what? That's a banging idea. I'll get right onto that. Yeah. I'll ring up Tom.
Yeah, I'm sure Chris Evans is not that busy. He could probably come on. You know?
He's just gotten married. Dear me.
Yeah, to the woman that's the villain in the Marvels movie.
Oh, is that her?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was just like, you know, millions of people of both genders across America are just heartbroken because America's arse is now taken. No, that's actually not a bad idea at all. Whether I can pull that off in 10 weeks.
Well,
however it is, but
the funny thing is like, you don't. Maybe this is me personally. Like, you don't need. It'd be interesting to hear it from any perspective, like even a lower tier character. Like, we were talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, I met the guy that played Atuma in the Wakanda Forever movie.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, I would still love to hear
absolutely
that whole perspective of the movie and how it was made and like things like that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, the one thing I've learned about this is if you don't ask, you don't get. I randomly, because Bill Sienkiewicz is I don't know if he still is because I'm less active on it, but he was very active on Twitter, like really active and quite politically active as well. He'd be talking about his kind of values and stuff like that. And I randomly replied to something and said, "Oh, rather tongue in cheek. I think I'd had a drink." I said, "Oh yeah, wouldn't it be great? Why don't you come on the podcast and talk about it?" He's like, "Yeah, okay." I'm like, "Okay." I mean, it took another 6 months to sort out because he's just like, until you manage to hook up with his PA, it's really difficult to get his attention because he's got all his channels open at once and he doesn't kind of, he's just creatively open, I guess. But that was such a just having the opportunity to talk to someone like that is just amazing. But if I hadn't asked, it wouldn't have happened.
Hey,
so
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. So
that wasn't me. That's Wayne Gretzky.
No, I knew I'd heard it, and that's because Kevin Smith went on this massive 2-year period where he was just talking about Gretzky and no one else.
Yeah.
So that's where I've heard that before. But yeah, so exciting. So what next for you? You're episode 50.
This
How
is
long
our
have you been doing
50th,
this?
Yeah. So we've done one a week, and we started the end of 2022.
Okay.
So yeah, we're coming around about a year, almost here pretty soon in a couple of weeks.
Wow. Why did you start this? Because I mean, maybe it's on one of your episodes, and I've not watched them all.
No, that's totally. So I got back into collecting, and then if I was to stick, I've said before, like if I was to stick with it solo, I probably honestly would have burned out. So none of my friends that I conversate and see in 3D were into this kind of thing. And so it's like, I need something. And then I was like, I'm going to make an Instagram page. I started posting like comics I got. And then my co-host JP reached out to me one day and was like, he's like, "Hey, you look like you have a similar story as me, getting back into this." Like, and so we started talking. And then from there, like the kind of friend circle within the community grew.
Nice.
And anyways, JP was the one who I talked to the most. And as we talk about it, he would always be like, "We should just like talk about this on a podcast." And I was like, whatever. And then like finally one day he's like, "No, I want to do this on a podcast. Let's do it." And I was like, "Wait, for real?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Here's my number. Call me. Let's talk about it." And I did. And then we just like literally started the next week.
Wow.
And it's cool too, because I what's enjoyable about it is just the format of it is just like turn the record on, just start talking. And we don't have to do any like, because like we've talked to people, that do these like 20-minute YouTube videos twice a week, whatever. And it's like the 20-minute video has 3 hours of editing and all this other stuff. And it's like, for us, it's like jump on, hit record, and then we just upload, and that's it. There's no editing. So it's been easy in that way. And like I said, this is one of my favorite things to do each week. I look forward to each week of sitting down with someone. And it's like, I don't care who it is. It could be Todd McFarlane, and it could be just a regular collector. Everyone's got a great story and why they do it and why they love it. And it's awesome to talk about it. And so I look forward to whoever we're talking to each week.
Cool. So who's next?
Let's see.
Who's on your wish list rather? Let's do both of those. I'm interviewing you now.
Wish list would be anybody. Oh, so next week we have Doug. His name's Doug Bratton. He's a comic book writer.
Okay.
I don't know if you know the YouTube channel Reggie Collects.
Nope.
So he started writing his own comic book, or started creating his own comic book, and this is one of his writers.
Gotcha.
And so it's just anybody and everybody. I'm open, like I said, open to talk to anybody.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, right on. Well, I was gonna say, Ian, like, thanks for coming on. This has been a pleasure.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anytime.
Yeah.
I've loved this. It's so nice not to have to quite so much of the work.
Yeah, I'm turning the chair on you now. So yeah. Yeah. Well, Ryan, why don't you tell real quick, give you the rundown of where people can follow you and look you up and all that? Because I'll also put all that in the description.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, this is why I put it on the little doohickey on the bottom of the screen there. In fact, I've got 2 rows of it as well.
Yeah.
So basically, if you Google at the MCC Pod, you'll find it. You'll find the Instagram, or you'll find the Twitter, or you'll find we're on the audios on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. I mean, I'm pretty much through most of them. And the YouTube is, I think if you just Google it, actually, you'll find it. It has got, I think it's youtube.com Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. I think it's the full thing. But yeah, it's up there. So, but throw a like and a subscribe, and I will forever be your friend.
Right on. Well, yeah, thanks everybody for checking it out. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Peace out.